drugs and alcohol will destroy your brain, okay? Let me give you some examples of this. This is known as drug-induced psychosis. And I have personally known people who have suffered from this. I've seen this with my own two eyes. I've had many other friends and loved ones tell me about people that they knew who suffered from drug-induced psychosis. I had a neighbor right across the street from me. He was a completely normal guy. He was a nice young man. He was friendly. He was polite. In fact, one day he came to me and virtually asked me, what must I do to be saved? He just came right up to me. He knew I was a pastor and he wanted to be saved. I went through the gospel with him and I won him to Christ. And then I gave him a Bible. And I tried to get him to come to church. He came from a horrible background. His family and the people he was staying with and everything was a really bad background. But he said, I want to be different. He said, I don't want to be like them. I'd rather be more like you and your family, get married, have kids, and live a righteous life. That's what he said. I don't even remember how long later, but it was days or weeks later. It wasn't that far off in the future from that point. Do you remember, honey, how long it was that went by? I believe it was just a short time, like maybe a week later. I see the guy out in the street acting like a madman. In fact, I didn't even recognize him at first. He kept coming up to even on my porch and up to my front door. And he was scaring my wife. She didn't recognize him. She didn't know who is this crazy guy who's coming on our porch, coming up to the door. And so I went over to confront the guy and say, hey, buddy, you need to stay away from my front door. You need to stay off my property. You're scaring my wife. And then, but right when I walked up to the guy to confront the guy, I recognized this is someone that I know. But he was just so different, I didn't even recognize him. And his mind was completely fried. You couldn't even talk to him. I tried to talk to him again the next day, and he still had the Bible I gave him. He's carrying around the Bible with him, just completely out of his mind. And I tried to ask him, what happened? What's going on? What's wrong with you? And he said, you know what? All I did was just smoke a joint. It was just, you know, it was supposed to be just marijuana, but he said, I think it was laced with something else. I think something else was put in there, and I ended up, you know, taking a more hardcore drug. His brain was fried. Hey, a week later, I talked to his sister and said, hey, how's he doing? His mind's completely gone. It's been a week, and he's still psychotic. And they said, we don't know if his brain will ever come back. You know, that's the last I heard. Eventually, he moved away. I never heard from him again. Last I knew, his brain was permanently fried. I don't know, you know, hopefully he recovered from that. But you know what? You say, well, why didn't getting saved fix it? You know what? Getting saved put him in a position where if he's going to continue to walk down the path of sin, God would chastise him. God was going to hold him accountable when he gets saved and he's got a Bible in his hand. He's being given the choice to go to church. And what did he do? Instead of coming to church, he went out, he smoked that joint, he did whatever else. He went out and partied and went down that path, and his brain was destroyed. He was like 20 years old. It's a young man, whole life ahead of him, but he destroyed himself. All because he wanted to smoke a stupid joint. He wanted to smoke a stupid marijuana cigarette instead of coming to church, doing right, living a godly life.